it's crazy. It's like a different world, a brave new world is coming out for us geeks that, you know, now soccer moms and grannies, you know, are into these characters as well. Todd Nauck was the original writer for Young Justice. He was known for his Spider-Man stuff. He was also doing it for Marvel. And I was pretty much new to DC. I got my start in my career with Rob Liefeld at Extreme Studios in the early days of Image Comics. When that wrapped up, I got discovered by DC, and I knew I was one of 5 artists in the running for Young Justice. So I was really hoping I could get it because I really loved these characters. And when I got picked to be the artist, I was over the moon about that. And when I was first told about this project, it was Justice League Jr. was the original name for the comic book, and it was pretty much, you know, just the new incarnation of Teen Titans, but tapping into the popularity of the Grant Morrison Justice League. So we wanted a junior Justice League team. So it was really the tone sort of seemed to develop between what Todd Nauck started and then Peter David picked up with when Peter David came in to be the writer of the ongoing series, was kind of something fun, something that could appeal to young readers, but still also appeal to older, longtime DC Universe readers. And just the kind of the crazy mix of these characters, I found personally kind of tapped into my favorite era of Justice League, which is the Giffen DeMatteis Justice League, where you had the straight man, Martian Manhunter Justice League. Robin was our straight man who had to deal with the crazies of our versions of Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Guy Gardner, Impulse, Robin, Little Lobo, Wonder Girl. All those antics, this is what made it fun for me, as well as, you know, dire superhero adventure, you know, those moments, that sort of tension of fun and serious that kind of would make a fun balance. A lot of those discussions were between Peter David and the editor, and I was so new and so overwhelmed. I grew up on Peter David comics, like his Hulk run and Spider-Man comics, that I was still so green and so starstruck that I was pretty much ready to, like, what are we gonna do? Okay, let's do it. But as the series progressed and the more confidence I developed in working with a legend like Peter David, and started to really feel like I was able to take ownership, I started able to kind of make story ideas or suggestions of the types of things I'd like to draw. You know, they were very kind enough and inclusive enough to ask me, Todd, what kind of stories do you want to tell? So it's like, I want to draw as many characters as possible. Are there other young superheroes that are kind of in limbo that we can bring out? So I wanted to dust off the Wonder Twins. Can we, you know, can I revamp them a little bit? And can we bring the Ray in as a character? And he became a main part of the team towards the end of the run. Yeah, tapping into the kids making mistakes. I've always loved teenage or young hero books like New Mutants, the original New Mutants from the 1980s, Power Pack. So I really have enjoyed reading those when I was a teen, and even still I enjoy young superhero group comics, those dynamics. It taps into what either we experienced or were experiencing at the time or what we remember. So my intention was to draw teenagers, not adults that are small. And that's some of the feedback I would get from Young Justice fans, is that you made teenagers look like teenagers. And it's like, that's intentional, you know, it's like, the physique should be smaller, you know, they should look young, not like massively ripped. I mean, Superboy's gonna be pretty ripped because, you know, he's a clone of Superman, you can't get around that. But Impulse, he's a scrawny kid and who can run fast. So having that sort of visual flavor was definitely something that tapped into my wheelhouse. Yeah, when I started with Young Justice, it had just come off of the heels of Justice League World Without Grown-Ups. Which was drawn by Mike McCone and Humberto Ramos, 2 artists I really enjoyed their work of, 2 guys I was becoming friends with as my career was starting to come up and starting to meet them at the conventions. And so I was kind of following a bit of Humberto's lead, like what had he established with drawing Robin because we were coming out of that and I wanted to kind of have a little bit of that flavor, because Humberto's style and my style kind of fit in kind of the same neighborhood of the different art styles that are out there. We could kind of be next door neighbors in those sorts of styles. So it wasn't too far of a leap, but as the series progressed, I was able to it kind of just evolved over time, where I wasn't relying so much on what Humberto and Mike had done in World Without Grown-Ups, and I could just kind of make it now into all new stories and heading in new directions. So my hairstyle for Robin sort of evolved, where it wasn't so much the flip bangs, but a little more back with one little kind of spit curl. So those were some of the things I was tapping into. But I read their solo series, Superboy, Robin, Impulse. I wanted to make sure I was keeping up with that each month so that I knew what was going on for them individually, so that when we're doing the team book, it reflects, or there's a connection for the reader. If they're reading the solo titles, they feel that it's a family feel with Young Justice when they come to read all of them together. No matter the title, whether it be X-Men or Invincible Universe for Robert Kirkman or Young Justices, I want to draw different characters that can do different things, different personalities, different character designs, because that keeps it fresh for me as an artist. I love drawing Spider-Man and drawing that one character over and over and over again, and he's got a great rogues gallery, so that keeps it fresh for me. But when it's all these different teams, power sets is so much fun. Someone who can fly, someone who can run fast, someone who can shoot lasers from whatever part of the body. That makes it fun because I get to think of the character in a different way. How do I compose them on the page? Costume colors is another thing. How many reds do we have on the team? How many greens? Who goes next to who on a given cover or splash page or in a panel, that it keeps from all the reds being clumped in one side, everyone who wears reds over here, and then we have the one guy in blue over here. How do I mix it up visually? All these different little things are things I keep in mind. Colors, designs, power sets, personalities, hair colors. Don't want all the dark-haired characters in one spot and then the one blonde character over here. Or actually, I guess we had like 3 blonde characters in that series. So. Those are definitely things I consider that makes it fun for me visually, and what does the visual aesthetic provide, along with considering what does the story need. One thing I loved about working with Peter David is that in Young Justice, we had so many things going on with so many characters in a story that the scenes would change like every 2 or 3 pages. So I was always in a different locale as well as working with different characters. So Robin and Superboy are over here doing this, while Impulse and Wonder Girl are over in this part of the world, or Apocalypse, or in space. And so we're always bouncing back and forth. So it's always, what's going to happen next, Peter? Where are we going to be with these characters? And when are these characters going to meet up? But we still have Little Lobo over here and Empress trying to figure out one thing. So it was always moving and fluid and kept it so fresh for me. And I learned so much while working with Peter on those 5 years doing Young Justice. In discussions with the colorists, we were working on one image and they said I'd clumped a lot of the red costume characters in one spot, and it's like, oh, I never thought of that. So from then on, it changed the way I thought about how I compose an image. It's like, think about the characters' costumes. Impulse wears red, Superboy wears red, Robin's predominantly red, but he's got some green in there. Empress, she's purple and gold. Arrowette, red and white. So it's like, okay, which characters do I put where, so that visually we don't have all one color in this corner and then the one character that has green is way over here. But I also have to keep in mind what is needed for the story, what characters need to be where. The boys have dark hair, the girls have light hair, but Empress has dark hair, but so does Little Lobo. So how do I mix that up so that the viewer's eye has different things to play with? So not just the design of the shapes, but the design of the colors, what goes where, so the eye is as they focus on the colors, it's leading them to another color or a similar color that's not all just clumped into one space, but a little more evenly distributed if possible or necessary for the overall image. Just speaking personally from my experience and my experience with the fans at conventions, the commonality that I've found from the readers who read it in 1998 through the early 2000s to when the series ended in 2003, fans would reread the comics. And I totally understand, because I reread my favorite X-Men that I grew up on. They're just stories that, whatever story we discover as a teenager, those are the ones that just tap into where we're at, the struggle, the uncertainty, the awkwardness, the changes that we're going through. The comics sort of kind of capture that, and people would go back to that. So the Young Justice readers have been loyal, vocal fans since the series ended 15 years ago. And they still love it. They come and tell me stories. I had a young lady say high school was rough, but Young Justice was a bright spot for her, and gave her an outlet or a hope or just something bright. When her school day was rough, she could come home and read Young Justice. And so knowing that stories that Peter and Larry and the crew and I got to do, it means a lot to know that it helped people. I remember meeting a brother-sister duo. They were in their 20s, but they read it as, junior high and high school kids, and they bickered about everything. But the one thing they could relate to and come to an agreement on was Young Justice. And so that means so much. And then I met a little 8-year-old girl. A family came by. This 8-year-old girl came by with her stack of Young Justice. She discovered Young Justice through the cartoon. She loved the cartoon, but 2 seasons wasn't enough. She wanted to know more about these characters discovered there was this series that we had done. So on eBay, she found all 55 issues, and because she wanted to know more. And I know that feeling. I discovered the X-Men in Amazing Spider-Man, or Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. That's the first time I saw the X-Men episodes, the 3 episodes they did. I had to know more. That's what led me to reading X-Men comics as a 13-year-old. So I totally understand that, and that kind of feeling of, I want more. And I think that's a great thing about comics, that there's so much history that there's never a shortage of most characters. There's not a shortage of stories that we can go find, whether it's their own title or the other titles they guest starred in. If I want to go find Booster Gold, I don't just have to find his series, but I can find him in Action Comics as well, and Justice League comics. So so the fact that Young Justice has been in the zeitgeist, and I think that it also ties in with Teen Titans. They're so synonymous because the characters overlap, that if people are fans of the Teen Titans, they end up fans of Young Justice as well. And with Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go becoming so, I mean, I saw an AT&T ad and there's Teen Titans Go leaping out of the phone. It's like, that's so crazy to think characters I read as a kid that Marv Wolfman and George Perez created are now pretty much icons. They're getting to the point where they're as popular as Spider-Man with the movies, Black Panther and Iron Man, characters that only us comic geeks know. It's crazy. It's like a different world, a brave new world is coming out for us geeks that, you know, now soccer moms and grannies, you know, are into these characters as well.